All right, we're live.
All right,
Alex.
we're live. We're alive and we're live. I think we're
Man,
alive. I don't know if this is a simulation or not.
I really miss you, Alex. It's been a
Miss you too,
while.
bro.
We're off the record talking about like when was the last time we saw each other? I mean, time flies by so fast.
Mhm.
Um, it's how are you, man? You're not in Australia,
I'm
that's for sure, right? So we just want to
well,
just on the record, just you're not in Australia.
that for sure.
Okay.
And hopefully it stays that way for a long time to come. Um, I mean, I'm doing good now. And there's going to be some changes to me in 2022, which I'm gonna like restructure my life a little bit with respect to what I'm doing and where I'm putting my time. If I can if I can figure things out over the next couple of weeks, then I think my life's going to move more towards content creation, and I may actually have an opportunity to finally write a couple of the first books that I wanted to write. So, so yeah, let's see. There's been some personal sort of challenges that have popped up, but I'm going to try and turn them into opportunities. So we'll yeah, the next 10 days in particular is going to be very important. So that'll define a lot of what happens next.
Yeah. So Alex, both of us, I think something connects us. We're both originally, at least. I mean, I'm still in Austria. It's and I didn't know it was so bad in Australia because I listened to the Corona Investigative Committee, with lawyers, experts, and all kinds of insiders, and I didn't know that it was so bad in Australia, the situation. And we're living in a shithole right now. The tyranny is in full force. I mean, it's this. I don't know. It's so fucking surreal and dystopian, and I'm not sure. Are we really run by a bunch of fucking criminals? And it is. It is. I mean, and that's why your articles, the series of articles that you are also continuing to write on the remnant and or remnant Bitcoin and that's why I put it, as a subtitle. And for this episode, our last hope for humanity, it struck a chord, not only with me, but probably with not many, but those the remnants, probably. And I'm like, especially considering the circumstances we're living in. As we have a child. She's 11 months old. She's going to be 1 year old next month in January, and we're seriously being considering where we're going to move to. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, we're not that privileged or lucky, just to pack our stuff and go somewhere. But if it's necessary, we have to. Maybe not now, but we're going to take all kinds of legal action. As you know, there's a law going to take effect in February. And they took that part off in the last draft, which means that sort of as a, what do you call it in English, replacement custodial sentence, meaning imprisonment, instead of paying the fine. So I'm talking about the mandatory vaccination.
Mm, mm, mm.
It is
So,
so fucking dystopian. I don't know what to say. What's your whole perspective on this whole shit?
well, I'll say one thing. You said it. The tyranny is in full force, and I think you're just wrong there because it's definitely not in full force yet. I think it's going to get a hell of a lot worse before.
Right. Sorry.
So I'm sorry. Welcome. Thank you for listening to my TED talk. I'm done now.
Oh man, no, but it feels like it. It feels like it. I mean, the pressure, the emotional pressure. That's what I'm talking about. It's still, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. We haven't seen nothing yet. So
Yeah. Well, look, unfortunately, as I've said before on many podcasts and on Twitter, I say that every time I think the world cannot get more ridiculous, I wake up the next morning, I open up Twitter, and I'm proven wrong. So it's like, I've decided to start calling it. I just call it now the clown world simulation, because that's what we're living in. That's the cartridge that's been put in the gaming console, and we're watching like there was a meme today which was like a NFL meme by Spint or Spint. I never know how to pronounce his name, but the meme guy, and it's just it was hilarious. So it's this reporter with an NFL guy doing an interview socially distanced, and then straight after the interview they hug. It's just You're muted. You're muted.
Were so they thought they weren't live anymore, right?
No, 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 no. It
Was it
was
like
live.
real
Just
for
yeah,
real?
yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. Live. So they did the interview socially distanced. They finished the interview
It's
and they
like in our
hugged.
faces, Alex. It's like, look at all these, I mean, assholes up there, they this whole ritual, with the fucking mask, like taking off and putting it back on and all when they go like visit schools or children. I mean this, the damages that have been and the consequential damage that have been caused psychologically, emotionally, not to mention economically, but in their souls, in the soul of the children. I mean, this is just so. I have no words for that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I think what we were saying off the record just before is like, our kids are going to be the only kids probably on the planet who are going to be fucking, I don't want to use the word normal, but able to contend with the reality of another person's face. Like, I mean, I see, in South America, for example, honestly, like this, I got kicked out and banned from another gym yesterday because obviously I refuse to wear a mask while I'm doing fucking squats. And the thing is, like, me and my girlfriend had a little bit of an argument because she said, look, they don't care, just wear the mask under the chin, and no one really says anything, which granted, they weren't saying anything. But I just snapped anyway. The guy came and I want to read what I wrote to him. Like, I translated into Spanish so he could read. And it says, I understand you're doing your job, but you being human is more important. I'm not a sheep. I'm not a dog. I don't believe in the lies from the government. If you want to support a lie and live like a slave, that's up to you. I'm sure you're a nice person, but supporting a lie makes your behavior evil. I will not support a lie. The main question is, do you support the people and the truth, or the government and its lies? And I tried to put that in this guy's face to read. And, like typical sheep, he refused to fucking read it and just started complaining about, everyone's wearing masks, so you have to wear masks. It's about equality. And I said, I don't give a fuck about equality. I'm not equal. I said, you're below me. You're a fucking slave if you want to voluntarily wear a fucking mask. I said, how about if the rule is jump off the fucking bridge? Are you going to do it, dickhead? He's like, no, but that's not the rule. The rule is we all have to wear masks. I'm like, no, that's a fucking dumb rule. Like, you don't fucking restrict your oxygen when you're training. So anyway, at this point, like, and that sort of inspired a tweet yesterday about, what I said. The enemy is not Klaus Schwab or the so-called parasitic elites. They're not really the enemy. Like the enemy is the fucking neighbor who's wearing 3 masks and believing in their shit. The enemy is this fuckwit at the gym, behaving and acting as the teeth of the mandate creators, right? Because if these fucking lemmings didn't go out and believe the dumb shit that they believe, the politicians, the government, the statists, the maniacs, the Klaus Schwabs of the world have no fucking teeth. They have no capacity to enforce it. So I tweeted yesterday, which was basically, Hitler didn't kill millions of people. It was the fucking idiots who followed his word that killed millions of people. And that's the same fucking story every single time. And, we've been way too apologetic to these fucking retards. We've been way too apologetic to all the lemmings who are just complying and attempting to comply their way out of tyranny. They are the fucking problem, not me, not even the government. It is fucking them. And I don't know, man. I view these people as subhuman now. I view them as below me. I view them as slaves. I view them as serfs. I view them as basically less than the fucking dirt under my foot. And I hope for a day at some point where, Bitcoin will be so valuable and that these fuckwits have none of it, so that I can put them to use in proper slavery. Like, at least the Egyptians built some fucking pyramids. In today's day and age, these slaves are just petty enforcers for masks. Like, when I'm fucking rich and powerful, I will put these fuckers to work and I'll hire slave masters and I'll whip them to the point where they're fucking, carrying and at least building something useful. I have no remorse for these motherfuckers anymore. I genuinely want the worst for them. So anyway, that's just my rant about how I'm feeling about the world.
No, you make such a good point. There have been many so good points. Um, You know, Alex, I mean, the sad part is, it's not only us. Like, people are, all of us know people, friends, or, you know, alleged friends, or you thought they were friends,
Yeah, yeah.
of family. They're all like, I mean, the magnitude and the depth and the degree of mass psychosis is so insane. And there's this guy, what's this guy, Professor Desmat from Belgium, who actually is going to publish a book on the psychology of totalitarianism. And he, like, broke it down, like how the mass formation evolves, or mass psychosis, or I don't know what you call it, mass hypnosis. What is it? I mean, psychologically, I just don't get it. They're like, they think they're so intellectual, so intelligent. It's always these intellectuals. They think it's always been like in Iran. When the Iranian Revolution, started, all the intellectuals, they all think they're super smart, and they've eaten, as we say in German, they've eaten sort of the wisdom with the spoon, but I don't know what's up with these people. I mean, do you understand it psychologically? This brainwashing, the indoctrination, this narrow-mindedness, and just, I don't know. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's Marx was another example, right? He was a academic fuckwit who was had a rich family, had benefactors, and didn't want to do the work. And I guess this is something that really, I guess, with respect to Bitcoin, just resonates with me very deeply, is the idea of proof of work, right? Is that Bitcoin is something you must earn through risk or effort. There's no other way to get it. Whereas if you roll your own cryptocurrency, if you're one of the insiders in an existing cryptocurrency, you don't need work, you just need stake to continue to enrich yourself. And there's a deep fundamental disconnect with reality there, which basically rigs the game. And the intellectuals are always looking for a way to try and outsmart reality by creating models and games in which they can control the rules and convince the lemmings, the sheep, to come into their framework so that the lemmings can operate inside their rules. And then they effectively have slaves. They have serfs, because they just make up the rules, they change the rules, they do whatever they want. Now, as those models get larger and larger and larger, particularly if those models are able to fund themselves, like if they go and capture the mechanism through which we measure human action, time, value, resources, which is money. If you can co-opt that game, and people, first of all, too stupid to understand what money is in the first place, and as a result, not intellectually curious enough to dig deeper as to what it is, then you can actually fund yourself and become large enough that that game or that model is something which we're all born into. And then you and I end up carrying the fucking game because we don't have an alternative or an opt-out. And in the past, all throughout history, the opt-out or the alternative was to escape to a new land and just build. Like, you realize that, the monarch, the leader, the king, whatever he was at that point in time, was a fucking idiot. And you're like, well, this game is just completely rigged, so I'm going to get the fuck out of here and go do something else. So you were able to leave. Today, though, we're not able to leave because the game has become so big and so interconnected and so prevalent and pervasive that we're all born into this scam. And I guess luckily, Bitcoin has emerged and it's offered us another way to opt out. And when enough resources are sucked out of the game, out of the model ends up imploding, kind of falling in on itself anyway. And that's really the battle we've got to win at this point, is not to try and convince the fucking lemmings that the game they're playing is a scam, because they're too dumb, too stupid, too naive to ever realize it. They'll never take the glasses off. The game is to wake up enough of the remnant, if we're going to tie that analogy in here, to suck their to take their productive capacity out of this thing, because we are the ones that are holding it fucking together. And when we walk away, the whole thing fucking implodes. The parasites implode on the fucking masses, and they can all go to hell, to be honest. And we can go and start rebuilding from scratch. So anyway, that was, again, I'm going on off on a rant. I can't even remember what the first question is, but
No, that's a good point. And you know, I wanted to ask you, I mean, don't you think, I mean, like, especially in these times of the pandemic, it's not a fucking pandemic, it's a plandemic. It's been like orchestrated and planned, and but people, you know, they just think it's a fucking conspiracy theory. But okay, you know, if you don't want to look at the facts, you know, people, what can we do? You know, you give people the evidence, the facts. You know, there are investigative journalists, experts, whistleblowers, all coming out with all kinds, you know, with so much overwhelming evidence and factual evidence, you know, and facts and investigative stuff. But you know, people just don't want to see it. But it has never become, I think, more clear than ever that the so-called democracy, you know, which people always, you know, love to pontificate about, is like, yeah, democracy is like ruling or enforcing whatever shit you know you want to oppress people with, you know, with what do we call it, tyranny, fascism, Orwellian, you know, technocratic, transhumanist, what, support it or somehow at least make the appearance of having the majority behind it, right? So that's I think this is what I'm concerned, or we are concerned with, is like, how much time do we have, you know, like, because once there's like physical coercion, like in Austria, you know, starting February, if you don't you know, like if you don't vaccinate, if you don't let yourself inject with a experimental substance, well, you don't fucking know what's going to happen, you know. And there are people, you know, dropping dead, there are more athletes, and I mean, there's just so much evidence out there. It's just in plain sight. What is up with these people? I just don't get it. How much time do we have?
Evidence only matters to someone who's got the brain capacity to fucking objectively analyze evidence. Again, the slaves, the lemmings, and the sheep will ignore evidence even when they're fucking dying in front of themselves. Like, you've seen, you know, the like people that, like that dad who's, you know, I've got the meme of it. You know, his son had a fucking adverse reaction to the first vaccine. He's in fucking hospital, and he's saying, I hope he gets better in time for the second dose. You killed your own fucking kid, you retard. And you're hoping that, you know, he gets better for the second dose. Or the you know, like people, the just as fucking stupid is, like, they're lined up to get the vaccine, someone gets injected, has a fucking, you know, anaphylactic attack, and like the ambulance comes taking him away, and the next guy sits down to take the fucking thing as well. Like, this is why I say, like, you know, me and Mark Moss had a discussion about, I think it was Mark or someone else. They were saying, like, this has to stop when people start seeing people drop dead around them. I said, no. They will fucking ignore it. They will fucking ignore it. Their family members will literally die right in front of them from the vaccine, and they'll line up right next to them to take the
next
and
then they're gonna say, or they always say, it would have been worse if whatever he or she wasn't vaccinated. It's so it's so insane. It's, I don't know, what is this? Is this beyond cognitive dissonance?
There's no cognition in the first place. These people lack brain capacity. For there to even be cognitive dissonance, there needs to be a brain. There is no fucking brain in existence with these people. That's why. So, like, coming back to the thing about democracy, though, funny that you mention it. So my next series of articles, so, you know, I've done the Remnant series now. So the next one is going to be a 3-part series about democracy and Bitcoin. And it's called Bitcoin is Not Democratic. Bitcoin is meritocratic, and there is a universal difference. And in there, I make the case about how democracy is just merely a system designed by parasites that enables rule of the competent by the incompetent, right? Rule of the useful by the useless. That's what fucking democracy is. It is literally designed to give the productive constituents of a society, the remnant, enough room to build value, to create wealth, so that it can be later extracted, and it's extracted under the banner of the greater good. Because if I take $1 from one productive person and I promise 5 people 15 cents for doing nothing, I just lost 1 vote, but I gained 5. And I also pocketed the difference of 25 cents for myself. And then because the person who had $1, he's still got another $1 left, I tell him, hey, I'll protect you from the people who want to take the rest of it. And then I'll tell these other idiots that I gave them 15 cents. I'll say, here's the reason. You only have 15 cents, but he has another $1. We should make another fucking law to take that. So this sort of parasitic manifestation of rule, wherein the ruler is simply a caretaker, someone who has no fucking skin in the game. He can do whatever he wants. He can make whatever decision he wants. He can rob whoever he wants. He can fuck up whatever he wants. He's in there for 4 years, maybe 8 years, and then he moves on. There's no damage to him. I mean, every single one of these fucking politicians, they came into office with basically nothing, and they came out of office multi-millionaires. There is absolutely nothing good about a democracy. Nothing. I actually think it's the worst form of rule, because at least communism and socialism fall apart extremely quickly, whereas democracy has the capacity to last and literally destroy the fucking world in the process and put people into gulags while smiling that it's for the greater good. So I think it's the most dangerous form of rule. This is where I diverge heavily from people like Gladstein, and this is where, when I look at the kind of people who support democracy, it is particularly either just brainwashed fucking lemmings, or the academics, like what you mentioned in Iran and in the Russian Revolution and everywhere else throughout history. It's always been these academics trying to come up with a way to leech from the value creators, to build these fake models, to project and espouse platitudes that the lemmings will fucking believe in, so that they can use numbers against the few productive people, in order to create a system of leeching. That's all it is. And it's always like democracy is literally proof of stake. Like literally by definition, it's fucking proof of stake. And it's disgusting. I can't think of anything more morally repugnant than democracy. I can't think of anything more morally repugnant than the retard teaching the master, ruling over the master.
Exactly. Yeah. It's disgusting.
One person, one vote.
Yeah. And it starts as it starts very early, in probably the womb of the mother, or at least at latest, in school. This whole fucking educational compartmentalized system where they brainwash the people, just do, get a degree, and it's that's why I'm a total advocate like Daniel Princey, whom actually I love the interview, the talk to you had on some time ago. He's also, a total advocate for homeschooling. So I would never put our daughter, into some kind of brainwashing gulag, where she just doesn't, she wouldn't learn like how to question everything. She, be creative, be innovative. So it starts there, the whole brainwashing, I think, starts there. And then the media, of course, which is like, is co-opted, is like an understatement. It's like totally controlled. The academia, the peer review, I think the Zafida Namous in his new books, The Fiat Standard, has done really huge justice to this chapter about fiat science and fiat academia, and I think it's even much better formulated than the Bitcoin standard from comprehension process. It's I must say I'm totally, blown away by and it reads really smooth. So anyway, what I was gonna say is that it's disgusting. It's a dictatorship, and as you said, we haven't seen nothing yet. But what I wanted to talk about, because I studied law, and I remember we talked about like law. There was a sort of a subject. It's called law philosophy or legal philosophy, or something like that. And you know, we talked about like Nazi Germany and when the injustice or when the cruelty or whatever, the horrendous things, you know, that are going on, you know, in a nation state, in a regime, reaches a certain point, then, you know, where's the legitimacy, Alex? Then, you know, then I have the right, you know, because freedom cannot be taken away from me. It's a natural right, so it can't even be taken away. So it is natural right. So I have a right to defend myself. I mean, if it comes really, you know, really to a serious situation where I have to defend my and especially the physical integrity of our daughter, and I'm sure we're not the only ones. You know, there are at least 1 million, maybe 2 million people in Austria who are against this whole vaccination. At least, you know, 1 million people. So there's a lot of things going on. You know, numbers are being manipulated. They, you know, there are like 300,000 people on the streets. You know, and then the media comes like, oh, there are just 40,000 people, even from the police side. It's so insane, the manipulation of data, the scientific fraud that's going on, the lies, the propaganda. I'm like, you know, in what fucking Matrix movie am I here? You know?
Matrix 5, the one that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah. I heard the last one was a real disaster, but I have.
Oh man, I'm so annoyed about that. I haven't watched it yet. I still want to watch it because I mean it was such an influential movie. But yeah, unfortunately, the Clown Wars simulation has literally destroyed everything, even the remnants of the best movies ever fucking made. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. But I don't know. To that last point, I guess. I mean, I don't know what I have to add to that except that the the I don't know at what point it unravels. I don't know because we're definitely in uncharted territory, right? Like, yes, there is echoes of the past. You know, there's echoes of Nazi Germany. There's echoes of the Stalinist regime. There's echoes of all sorts of things from the past. But the reality is that it's quite a bit different this time, and not in a good way, in a bad way. In the sense that it's there's at least during the Stalinist regime, there was a force, like at least some sort of legitimate force, one could argue, that was against it, right? Like, so, there was Hitler, and then there was the Allies, right? Notwithstanding, that the Allies themselves were, probably involved in some way. There was probably all sorts of weird shenanigans going on in the background anyway. But at least there was like this, this force in the opposite direction. At least, the Americans in some way, shape, or form, again, whilst they probably were instrumental in creating the problem in the first place, at least, there were American soldiers and American, deployments and all this sort of stuff that were for freedom, right? And then people who were escaping Germany had a place to go. We kind of don't have that at this point. It's a very different world where it's like the authorities, we're against basically every single authority. There isn't a single so-called authority that is on our side. So we're fundamentally having to subvert and usurp everything. Now, the good part of that is that we actually are building off a sound organic foundation that is natural, it's emergent, and it's not just one authority imposing its will on another, which is why we're here in the first place. But the downside is that it's going to be messier, it's going to be uglier, it's going to probably, I don't know, be more painful. There's no textbook in how to deal with this. I don't know, man. It's going to be a very, very strange decade. And I mean, we're only what, 2 years in to this stupidity, and it's already, I mean, it's already just so laughable, so stupid, so ridiculous. And I don't know. I don't know what to think about 2022. I honestly don't know what to expect or to think. And I guess to cap that, thought off is like, I don't know how this thing turns around. I'm at a bit of a loss for words for once in my life.
So do you think something unexpected could happen in the next, like sooner, much sooner than we could have even anticipate in the next, let's say, couple of years, 1 or 2 years? Like
What do you
something
mean,
that's
like
out of the blue, like something that we couldn't even like fathom, like maybe a new,
like
I don't know, false flag or something, I don't know, or
like aliens?
I don't know. Maybe that's the last Joker, because nothing works. They come up with a fucking, alien, false flag, alien invasion or something. Like
Well, isn't that what they're talking about now?
I am telling you, I think
Yeah,
they're trying to condition, and they're trying to
yeah.
condition people's minds. They're fucking mind controlling people.
They're starting to move the Overton window now. So they got like 24 theologians together to basically think about what it would mean if we had, an alien. It was like,
Yeah, yeah.
holy fucking shit.
There's actually a
Holy fuck.
testimony from Werner von Braun, who was at NASA, who Operation Paperclip, they brought him to Germany for listeners. Um, just a background, and he had an assistant, and she said that before he died, he told her, "Listen, that's the last card, the last Joker, something like that. They're gonna pull it off. False flag alien mission." Anyway, I just want to think about it. Let's talk about solutions or something positive.
Okay.
Um, uh, so I mean, El Salvador, sure, but at the end of the day, Bukele is a politician for me. I don't know, I don't know what to think about these people. I mean, I think he's got ethical principles. This is, I think mentioned that some time ago. I have the feeling the guy, of course, enjoys it, to be celebrated on Twitter, and it's sort of a vanity stuff. But do you think he's got like ethical principles, like beyond being a president of El Salvador and politician? Do we have a guarantee, like even if he sticks
No,
around?
we don't have any guarantees. I think Bukele is a political animal, as you said. I think he's an intelligent politician. Um, I think that he's doing basically what every single small scale nation state should do, which is create options, create controversy, and buck the trend. So whether you like him or not, doesn't really matter. If I was him, I would be playing the same fucking playbook. And the thing is, I would much prefer to have a contract with a dictator than a contract with a democracy, because at least with a dictator, you know who you're dealing with. And if things go sour, you have one person to kill, whereas a democracy is a hydra. There is nobody to kill or to finish off. So like part of this series, I'm going to go into this idea of like libertarianism, or a hyper Bitcoinized world is basically a patchwork of private dictatorships, small scale dictatorships. And that's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, like you look at how a company functions, it's effectively a dictatorship, and it's a dictatorship because it's functional. And if you want to be an effective dictator and you want to make the most of your land, your resources, you'll want to, as best as possible, adhere to the contracts that you create with your prospective customers, partners, or the people you deal with. Now, notwithstanding that fact, there will be some moron dictators who break contracts, who do all that sort of stuff, and go on a press and everything, but they'll basically obsolete themselves into economic oblivion, right? Like they'll wipe themselves off the map, and they'll become dependent on someone who runs their little jurisdiction or their little territory well. So Bukele is just a very early incarnation of someone who is looking to hopefully rule over his land and beyond for a long time. And he's using the geopolitical and mind virus advantage that Bitcoin represents to give himself that precedence. And in the next 4 years, like assuming he just stays that course, he will be extraordinarily powerful. And by no means is he doing it to give a fuck about the people. Like, honestly, fuck the people anyway. They're all sheep. So who gives a fuck? You know, if he just does it for himself and he becomes a powerful dictator on a Bitcoin standard, for him to remain commercially viable and to maintain a territory that is commercially viable, he's going to want to maintain the integrity of the contracts he creates with the people he wants to do business with, which will most likely be Bitcoiners. So I don't see this as bad in any way, shape, or form. I think it's all good. I think it's all great. And it doesn't matter whether he's doing it for the good of the people or for the good of himself. There is a net benefit there for anyone who wants to deal with Bukele in a contractual manner. And I think it's a safer contract than dealing with the EU or the World Economic Forum or the World Bank or the US or the Five Eyes or any of these fucking retards.
So what the idea was, free private cities, because Peter Young was here, he was visiting us. He works also amongst others for Safed and Amus and free private cities and some other organization, I think, for Incrementum or something. And he said, and I told him, especially now, with the pressure mounting up, there should be like a more accelerated process of developing free private cities. Like as you said, it's a contractual service. You pay a fee, whatever yearly fee per year, free private cities or citadel cities or Bitcoin city in El Salvador. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to pull it off, with the volcano bonds, like sort of a financing mechanism where he builds infrastructure. That would be great, so to build up that incentivization game. So people come, investors come, entrepreneurs come, people with skills, with talents, people like you and me and my girlfriend, and she's got, and so, do you think we will see like a accelerated hyper Bitcoinized, like localized, what do you call it? Like circular economies, local economies.
It's the only way.
Yeah, it is the only way.
Yeah,
and that's the only way we can be protected, right? I mean, we can protect ourselves. That's the only way, That's why El Salvador is like a serious option for us, next to like maybe Mexico or Paraguay. But other than that, we don't have any guarantee anywhere else.
Well, the thing is that this is the fortunate and unfortunate thing about life is there is no guarantees anywhere, anyway. Because there's no guarantee in Salvador or Paraguay or Mexico either. It doesn't take much for these centrally managed systems to kind of break apart and fall apart. Maybe the one guarantee that we have is, gravity always prevails, truth always prevails. So at some point along the clown world simulation timeline, the shitfall implodes on itself. So that's a guarantee. The thing that's not guaranteed is when, right? So there's a good saying, and I can't remember who said this, but I can tell you what, but I can't tell you when, or I can tell you when, but I can't tell you what, right? So we know that this whole simulation is going to fall apart. The lie will collapse. You can't continue to build on a foundation of fucking quicksand, and you can put all the sticky tape and band-aids and shit you want all over it. It's going to snap. It's going to fall apart and implode on itself. So the question is how long does that take? And what do we do in the meantime in order to protect ourselves and to subsist and to last and to outlast the stupidity, right? And enclaves like what's happening in Salvador are examples, Paraguay, Mexico, Costa Rica, etc. There's examples around. And this is, Austin is another one, Miami is another one, all that sort of stuff, right? And this is where I think it's going to require action, thinking, organization in a decentralized manner by all of us, I guess. And that hasn't changed. That's the same discussion we had 2 years ago.
Where would you see like these kind of free private cities or Bitcoin cities, like hyper Bitcoin cities, evolving or grow, or or developing? Like, do you have any like countries or cities
Yeah,
where you have
the
been
more
like?
broke, the more broke, the better.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. The more broke the better, because like, I mean, that's not a I think that's a there will be exceptions to that rule, right? But if a territory is bankrupt or broke, and there's enough uh, there's enough of a desire to avoid starvation by the people around, there is an opportunity to present an alternative that people might want to take a bet on, right? Um, it's like, it's not going to happen in Australia, for example. No fucking chance in hell. It's not going to happen in Germany. It's not going to happen in Austria. It's not going to happen in Canada. It's not going to happen in England. Maybe parts of America, it may happen. So parts of America may be the exception to the rule because of the kind of frontiersmen that so recently, at least, moved into and colonized those regions, like Texas and Florida being examples, right? But in saying that, like, to move, they may do it. That dichotomy. So I'll give you an example. So at the individual level, you have a person in Africa or in Venezuela who doesn't want Bitcoin. They fucking need Bitcoin, right? And then you have Michael Saylor, who doesn't need Bitcoin, but he wants Bitcoin. So that's a micro version of the macro, which is an El Salvador doesn't want Bitcoin, it fucking needs it. And a Florida or a Texas doesn't need it, but if it's smart enough, it might want it, and gain a jump. So there is there is some interesting tactical advantages, and that's actually, I mean, as I'm spitballing this and as I'm thinking about it, this actually makes a whole lot of sense to me, because it's like, you look at the macro version of a fucking moron leftist, is New York, for example, and they by far going to be the last jurisdiction or territory in the world to do anything with Bitcoin, other than regulate the shit out of it to create protectionism for Wall Street. So the upshot to that for us is that they impoverish themselves, and one day we buy Wall Street as a place to chuck a party, right, for January the 3rd every year. So it's like, yeah, I think you want to pick a place that either needs it or that has the highest degree or chance of capturing it from a place of curiosity or strategic advantage. In basically the diagram that I drew in the article in 2020, the Bitcoin and lockdowns, right? So it's like the necessity, Bitcoin moving from a luxury to a necessity. If you can identify a location or jurisdiction or territory that wants the early competitive advantage or requires it as a necessity, I think that's where we can sprout up.
Do you see, like, after El Salvador, would you think that a number of smaller countries, all of a sudden, like one after the other, start doing the same thing, or or like El Salvador? What would be the factor that triggers that this process, or that would like totally like be
Well,
totally unexpected?
very similar to in a village of starving people, one of them sees the other guy with Bitcoin, and he's either protecting his purchasing power or growing it, and the other guy's like, fuck, I better jump on this. And it's the same thing there. And then a slightly different game theory takes hold with the Floridas and Texas of the world,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
Texas sees Florida making strides and like, fuck, they're going to outcompete us. So we want to outcompete them. So they do something and they kind of drive each other forward. So the game, one is to gain dominance and the other is to survive. But the game theory is it's a flavor of the same thing.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, I don't want to take too much time of you, Alex. Anything like what would you say to the people out there besides stacking sats? What is like an optimistic, realistic uh, I don't know advice that you can give people?
Run for your life.
Run for your life, yeah. Especially in Australia, because you mentioned Australia. I heard a guy in Australia, I think he's a lawyer actually. He said, when it comes to the children, people, I think he thinks people are going to rise up, but I don't know. It just maybe people in Australia they don't even have guns, right? I mean, I think all the guns have been confiscated, so they can't even defend themselves, even if it's like total like you know uh, uh, I don't know,
Yeah.
concentration camps like.
Hey, at least the Australian concentration camps will have music. They'll have free Spotify subscriptions and some Netflix.
What a luxury.
Um, this is so fucking stupid. So look, I mean, words of wisdom or words of hope. At this point, I have very little. I think people should obviously continue accumulating and acquiring as much Bitcoin as possible. They should continue figuring out ways in which they can store it and secure it, because as the parasites get more desperate, they're going to want to get their hands on it. So you want to figure that piece out. Make your Bitcoin untouchable, and make it so that if they do touch you, that it's all gone. Because then they have very little incentive. They have nothing to take from you, right? Live frugally. Show very little. I think now's also the time where we should actually also probably start becoming more private. So you and me should probably both cancel our podcasts and cancel everything else we're doing, and start hiding more. So that's advice for me and you, and for
It's
everyone
too
else out
late,
there running a
Alex.
Bitcoin
It's too
podcast.
late. We should have gone anonymous from the beginning. I think a lot of people said that who are now
Yeah.
full name on there. But anyway, so
Yeah,
that's
it's all right. Maybe we should just become shitcoiners, and then we can, at least camouflage our thing there. We should change our podcast to Discovering Ethereum.
we would never do that. I think.
CBDC maximalists. That's what we need to become. So, I mean, look, honestly, now's the time to start figuring out ways in which you have, build the back door basically, so that if you do need to move and go quiet and everything, you have the capacity to do so. I mean, I know as I said, my 2022 is going to change significantly, in a professional capacity. So I hope to, recede from the from the commercial sort of sphere and space, and do more in a I don't know, use the pen more, because I know that I can do a lot of damage with writing, at least. So I will look to continue doing that. And what else can I say? I mean, there's a whole host of other skills that people should be thinking about, like gardening, and self-defense, and looking after your health, and maintaining some form of sanity, meditating, reading a lot, like all of these things that people should have been doing anyway before the clown world simulation sort of went into overdrive. Like, they're things that we should be doubling down on now. And also, actually, another one is probably just continuing to resist and making the lives of the enforcers difficult. So, like what I was doing in the gym the other day, which is, I mean, I could have worn the mask underneath my chin. And in some cases, the argument, like what my girlfriend said, she's like, why are you causing yourself issues for no reason? I mean, fuck them. If I don't cause them, like, I want to make their lives painful and difficult. And the more of us that make their lives painful and difficult, maybe they'll realize how fucking worthless and pathetic they are. Maybe not.
Yeah, and
Maybe
you're,
it creates more
and
antagonism.
Alex, you're transparent and honest. I think there's very, very few people who tell people in their face, you know, what the reality is, like I think people need that, especially nowadays, because they're under mass psychosis. Maybe people need that, just to wake up. I don't know. There's because I mean, they're all sheeps. People just succumb and do whatever they're told. So this is maybe actually, yeah, it is. I think a good thing that you're doing because you're standing
Thank
up
you.
to your principle, to your sacrosanct principle.
Yeah, that's something I just can't seem to avoid. I don't know. Like so many people think that, yeah, look, I agree with you, but I just don't want to be bothered. And I honestly think that's the wrong attitude. I honestly think that, well, if you can't be bothered, then when are you going to be bothered? When you're being pushed into the gulag? Like, is that when you're going to be bothered? Like, or when they maybe inject your fucking kids? Like, do you want to be bothered when it's too late, you dumb motherfucker? Like, now's the time to be bothered,
Mhm.
not before. Like, it was the time to be bothered in March of 2020 when people like me or Francis or Safedine got up and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you people? This
Mhm.
is a bad idea."
Mhm.
And people were like, "Oh, relax, you're being extreme, blah blah blah." Now, 2 years fucking later, oh yeah, maybe you were right, but look, it's not that bad yet, so I can't still be bothered, standing up for myself. It's like, and this is why, like, in many ways, like the gulags and the Holocaust, you know, we might think that it was extreme now, but back then, I mean, I think these people were basically voluntarily walking into the fucking camps and onto the trains
Mhm.
because step by step it became normal, and they basically were never bothered to say no. Um, and it's really fucking frustrating for me. It's like, how can you be so fucking weak and pathetic that you you prefer to fucking live a lie? Like, fuck is wrong with you, man? Like, fuck off. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's um that's enough of my ranting. I think read, buy Bitcoin, meditate, keep calm, make the lives of the lemmings difficult, laugh at them, ridicule them, keep pointing out the stupidities, have a backup plan, create your backdoor, build other skills, build networks. Like, that's the job for 2022, man.
Would you recommend, or do you see like any places or regions, or I don't know, countries where you would see in the next, let's say, 10 years, like conservatively, where people would just emigrate or move to? Is there like other regions?
Balkan regions.
Okay.
So not just in Europe, but in
Hmm.
Central America is like, and even the Caucasus, like they're all balkanized regions because they're basically, what you want to do is you want to be in places where there's some sort of fragmentation, and this is where the United States is kind of like an anomaly, is because it is the United States, but because the states have enough autonomy, they
Right.
are also balkanized. So balkanization is what you want to look for. So then you have some sort of optionality, and then it's up to you to try and figure out whether you want uh, advanced, or like affluent
Hmm.
Balkans, like the US states, or you want non-affluent
Hmm.
Balkans, and whether you want, the South American, Latin American culture, or whether you want more of the European culture. They
Hmm.
both have their pros and cons. They're both fucking retarded, and they're both beautiful in their own ways. So the question is, like, which flavor of retard, which flavor of beautiful do you really want? And that's up to everyone's personal preference at this point.
Mm. Got you. So, man, as I told you, I think you already talked off the record that you're gonna start writing a book, because I told you, write a book. I can't wait. Once your book comes out, I think it's gonna be a blast.
Thank you.
It's gonna be a bestseller. To be honest with you. No, because it's so dense, everything that you write. So, where can people find you? And besides Medium.com, you are on Bitcoin Magazine, your articles, anywhere else, or what are we looking forward to?
Yeah, so basically I do all of my blogging now on Bitcoin Magazine, and then later on I just move it onto my old blog. There's the Bitcoin Times, actually,
Mhm.
which that'll be out this week, the edition 4, which
Cool.
is going to be, I think it's my most, the piece that I wrote in there, it's my longest piece ever, but I think it's also my most hopeful, big brain, big picture view of Bitcoin. So it's called Fire Bitcoin Teleportation, and it talks about this idea of, you know, the the timeline of humanity basically being BB and AB, so before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin, and it talks about how Bitcoin is as important as fire in terms of the evolution of humanity as a species. So I think it's extraordinarily important piece. The piece from Brandon Quittem in there is also fucking amazing. It's about pioneer species and how Bitcoin mining represents a way for society to evolve, to form around Bitcoin mining in places where we were unable to capture or harness, or it was uneconomical to capture or harness energy. So some really, really good stuff in there. Like Alan Farrington's in there, Thomas Strolat's in there, Peter Sonongi and Craig Warmke, who are both philosophers. So yeah, it's going to be a really killer piece. So bitcointimes.news is the website where people can get all the PDFs for free. And then next year, I'm actually going to start publishing them. They will be limited edition prints, like high quality prints, and there will be 2,100 of each edition. And I think I'm going to do 21 editions in total. So, and if I do one a year, that means this project's going to last another, 16 years or whatever, 16, 17 years. So it's like a low time preference thing, but something that I want to basically document and think deeply and write deeply about the ramifications of Bitcoin in the world and on the world over the next couple of decades. So is that, and then obviously the podcast, Wake Up. So that's I'm going to be putting more time into that in the new year.
I only recommend it. You're going to talk to Catherine Austin Fitz, right? Sometime in January.
Yes.
I can't wait for that one because I think you need to orange pill her. I think she just there's a few people who are so not only influential, but they've got like a huge comprehension of the things going, because she's a whistleblower. Actually, she's an insider, and she knows how many trillions have been siphoned off into the military industrial complex. It's a lot of subjects and topics which I've been following her for a long time. So if you and I really want to understand why she thinks, I don't know what she thinks about Bitcoin, to be honest. I still didn't get it. Is it because she thinks whatever it's sort of a NSA CIA stuff? I think it's going to go into this side, but let's get surprised. I don't know, maybe she'll surprise us with some kind of enlightenment. But she's awesome. If you can orange pill her, then it's going to be a huge audience.
That's my plan.
Yeah. So, Aleks, thanks so much again, and hopefully talk to you soon and see you soon in person.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much. Love these conversations.
Ciao. All right. So what I want to add was amazing talk with Aleks Svetski. Always, a blast with him. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. I think he's got 2 Twitter handles, but one of them is Ghost of Svetski, and you can also find him on bitcoinmagazine.com, his articles, and then svetsky.medium.com, and all the other links I'm just going to put in the show notes. And as I also said, take care of your Bitcoin, meaning, not your keys, not your coins. Take them off your exchange if you're a noob. Stack sats, accumulate small amounts, whatever it is, continuously. Don't look at the price. It's just meaningless. Think in purchasing power, in the magnitude and power of purchasing power of Bitcoin in the months and years to come. And and you're good to go. And just have some kind of exit plan, whatever that is, especially if you're in Australia or Austria and Europe, in European Union, in this shithole. Just be prepared. And I have total empathy with you if you have, like us, if you have children, you got to plan ahead and, pick a country, pick a region, pick something, build up a network, find people, whom you share the same values, whether it be Bitcoiners or libertarians or whatever, but especially Bitcoiners. And and I think it's going to evolve much faster now because the pressure is on, and there'll be more investors, entrepreneurs, people want to move out of the country and have a free live in a free private cities, have a contract maybe with a service provider, and live in freedom, and with ethos and with joy and pleasure and thrive. Anyway, my name is Keivan Davani. I'm the host of the Keivan Davani Connection Show, and let me know any suggestions, questions you have for future talks, interviews I should do. And thanks so much again, and follow me on Twitter